you watch enough martial arts or action movies in general, you start to notice how often the main character just keeps winning. That's kind of the deal these movies make with you. The hero has to show off his skills and prove he's legit. Bruce Lee once spoke about this exact thing. He said, "When I fight these underlings, I should get rid of them with 3 kicks. If it takes a long time to dispatch these peons, then what should I do when I meet the head villain? I'll have to fight him for a whole hour." It's such a basic trope of the genre that we don't even question it. The wins come early and the losses, or even the really hard fights, are saved for later. But what if those early wins don't really prove anything? In The Prodigal Son, you can't always trust the reason for a fight. Before the movie starts to build steam, we immediately know that there's something weird about the first fight scenes. He lays waste to his opponents, and it's humorous the degree to which he beats the villains. These wins are usually intended to give the audience confidence in our hero, tell the kiddos who the good guy is and who to look up to. These wins tell us how serious to take our hero. But here, we don't get to that point. This is where we find something off about The Prodigal Son. The fight ends, but immediately we can sense that this was a little too easy. The hero doesn't become the picture of a calm presence we can identify with. He's not that egoless hero that uses combat as a last resort. Our genre brains immediately start to reach for outcomes where our hero has a loss heading his way, as some form of cinematic teaching moment about the wisdom of ego death. But that isn't this movie. The movie builds at first like a traditional kung fu movie, but something is missing. There's no big teachable moments. The movie doesn't stall on this, it just keeps going. Not long after that, the movie tells us what's going on. This happens early and we get the blunt truth. Our hero, Leung Chang, played by the incomparable Yuen, isn't the great fighter everyone thinks he is. His father has been paying his opponents to lose. At first, Leung Chang remains oblivious. Some friends end up going to see a traveling opera troupe. There they see the performer Leung Yitai, played by Lam Ching-ying, best known for his portrayal of Taoist priest Master Cao in the Mr. Vampire series. Here, he delivers one of his most entertaining performances. One of the young men in the audience, a friend of Leung Chang, goes backstage because he's attracted to the androgynous Leung Yitai. When he finds out the truth, that Leung Yitai is a male, it isn't pretty for anyone. Yitai demolishes the group, and eventually Leung Chang is on his way to defend their honor. But this is where reality hits home for the young, protected man. Yitai wipes the floor with him, and then lets him know, with no uncertainty, that his opponents have been paid off. The confidence he's had wasn't built on skill. His reputation and all that he knew came from his rich father. Now, normally, this would be where the hero snaps out of it. He finds an old master in the woods, trains forever, then comes back to beat the man who humiliated him. However, that isn't what happens here. The movie doesn't even slow down after the truth is exposed. It's like, he knows the truth, we know the truth, let's move on. Now, the question for Leung Chang becomes, how do I make the lies true? And Leung Yitai is the only person he's seen who feels legitimate enough to actually teach him how to become strong. All of this talk of lies makes you think, Leung Chang had his lies dragged out into the light for all to see. But what happens when a lie never is? There's another fighter in this movie whose reputation doesn't come from prearranged wins. This fighter inspires fear before the fight ever begins. He is as ruthless as they come. His fights aren't merely for sport. He ensures his opponents are forever mangled. Or worse. This is Ngai Fei, played by Frankie Chan, known for his work as a director and as an actor. Chan is a threat while playing this character. When he's approached by a man seeking revenge for losing the use of one arm in battle with him years ago, Ngai Fei finishes the job and decimates the man's other hand. Fei easily dispatches of this man, but the question you may ask yourself later is, would this match have been allowed if the odds were a little more even? After Leung Chang's lies exposed, the movie isn't in a rush to replace his negativity with any sense of purpose. His bravado and confidence are gone. He's so much weaker than he once appeared. When approaching his kung fu instructors, masters whom he easily beat to a pulp at the start of the film, the story soon changes. With the cat out of the bag, they get their revenge. Everything that Chang now experiences is laced with honesty, and for him, it's a totally different environment. He's in a position where his only way out is through humility. He puts himself on the front lines and begs for Leung Yitai to become his master. He even has his father buy the opera troupe just so Leung Yitai can't send him away while he begs to stay. After being introduced to Wong Wapo, Yitai's older martial brother, played by the legendary Sammo Hung, Yitai finally accepts Chang as a student. What's striking is how little sympathy the movie offers him. His humiliation just continues. He's bullied and hazed regularly. The people behind this movie knew what this kind of training felt like. They grew up in systems where repetition mattered more than anything, where embarrassment was part of the process. So the movie doesn't rush Leung Chang toward mastery. Only after the lie is gone does his work truly begin. Even then, nothing about it seems heroic. Ngai Fei never has a moment like Leung Chang's. There's no come-to-Jesus moment for him. He never faces this sort of ridicule or public humiliation. At first, the movie develops Ngai Fei's reputation by showing us how brutal his fights are. Then there's sort of a dead space in the movie. Sure, he tries to fight Leung Yitai, but he's not successful in pushing that fight, and mostly his fight scenes are few and far between. It takes a while before the reason for that becomes clear. You see, Ngai Fei also has a powerful father who's concerned about the health of his son. Only Fei's father doesn't waste money on bribing opponents. Instead, he makes sure that these challengers, disappear. Despite being the more horrific strategy, you can't argue that it's not a cleaner way to keep a secret. There's no doubt that Ngai Fei is talented, but the second it seems he's met a true challenger, his bodyguards are sworn to assassinate any competitive fighter. So while his skills have actually been tested by strong fighters, he's never fought the best. While he does have his reputation and he does have his power, he lacks accountability. Before you know it, these two men, Chang and Fei, are on a crash course heading towards each other. Ngai Fei may be a man of violence, but the worst part of his existence is that he's never had to learn from loss. By this point, we know that both of these men have lived a lie. The question becomes, how long can that last? Leung Chang's lie crumbles underneath him early. It's public and it's destructive. He has no choice but to rebuild himself, to reclaim the man he once claimed to be. Ngai Fei is allowed to mature. He's protected, completely insulated, but he too is unaware. His brutality towards his opponents mirrors his father's brutality, and because he never seeks out real challengers, he remains unaware that talented fighters are being removed before they ever reach him. This is how he completely misses how Leung Yitai and the opera troupe are brutally assaulted, with most of the performers savagely killed. Yet, despite this, the movie never frames one lie as clever or one as evil. It treats them as mechanisms, systems put in place by protective fathers. And yet, the outcomes couldn't be more different for these two men. By the time their paths finally converge, the movie has made its decision on which is more dangerous. It isn't the man who is publicly humiliated. It's the one who was never corrected. When we finally come to the conclusion, the inevitable fight is of no surprise. Leung Chang has already lost his master to Ngai Fei's henchmen, and that loss hurts him more than losing his reputation ever could. The fight seems ominous, and we as the audience aren't sure what Leung Chang plans to do. Ngai Fei, despite harboring guilt over the death of Leung Yitai, still appears as he always has. There's no ambiguity in his plans. Someone will die today. When they fight, it's the newfound solemn maturity of Leung Chang versus the brazen and unempathetic nature of Ngai Fei. This is Ngai Fei's exposure to the real world, to a fighter greater than he is. Leung Chang becomes the great fighter he pretended to be. He beats Ngai Fei not like a final master worthy of the 1-hour fight Bruce Lee talked about, but like a middle-of-the-road journeyman fighter. When the dust settles, the man who never learned his limitations lets out a shout, and his words hang in the air. This is the moment that Ngai Fei finally faces the truth, much the same way that Leung Chang once did.